The most famous quote about human kindness is fake. You've probably seen it. Someone asks the anthropologist Margaret Mead what the first sign of civilization is. Everyone waits for her to say a tool or a pot or a cave painting. Instead, she holds up a healed thigh bone and says, "This." Because in the wild, a broken leg is a death sentence. And a bone that healed means someone stayed. Someone carried you, fed you, guarded you while it knitted back together. It's a beautiful story. It gets shared constantly. And there's no record of Margaret Mead ever saying it. Not in her books, not in her lectures, not in a single interview anyone has ever found. It's a quote we invented because we wanted it to be true. But here's the part nobody tells you. The real evidence is stranger than the story we made up. And it goes back 1.77 million years, long before your species even existed. 3 things are coming that most people get wrong. First, a man who was blind in one eye, missing an arm, and completely deaf somehow survived for a decade in Ice Age country that should have killed him in a week. Second, the oldest case isn't a Neanderthal at all. It's a toothless jaw from something that wasn't yet human. And at the very end, I'll hand you the one question this whole thing raises that I genuinely cannot answer. Neither can any scientist alive. So let's go look. Think about the last time you were sick. Really sick. The kind where getting to the kitchen felt like a project. Now, take away the kitchen. Take away the roof, the heating, the person who texts to check on you. Put yourself on open ground in Ice Age Iraq 50,000 years ago, with a body that no longer works. That was the reality for a Neanderthal we now call Shanidar 1. Here's what his bones say about his life. At some point, probably when he was young, something crushed the left side of his face and likely blinded that eye. His right arm was fractured, withered, and eventually lost below the elbow, possibly amputated. His right leg and foot were damaged, so he walked with a heavy, painful limp, and bony growths deep in his ear canals tell us he was profoundly deaf. Now put yourself in that body for a second. You can't see properly on one side. You can't hear a predator coming. You can't run. You've got one working arm. Out on an Ice Age landscape full of hunting cats, you aren't a hunter anymore. You're prey. And here's the part that stops you cold. Every single one of those injuries shows healing. He didn't die from any of them. He lived years afterward, by some estimates at least a decade, and reached what for a Neanderthal was old age. That does not happen by accident. Someone brought him food. Someone kept watch while he slept. When the group moved, and these groups did move, following the herds and the seasons, somebody decided that a man who could barely walk was coming too. Somebody carried him. Which raises an obvious question. How far back does this go? Is this a Neanderthal thing? A human thing? Something recent? Go to Dmanisi, in the country of Georgia. There, in rock, dated to 1.77 million years ago, researchers found a skull and jaw from an early member of Homo erectus. And he had almost no teeth. Not lost at death, lost years before it. We know because the bone where his teeth used to be had completely smoothed over and been reabsorbed by his body over a long stretch of living time. Picture trying to survive that. No cooking pots, no soft food aisle. You can't chew tough plants, you can't chew raw meat, you can't eat the things everyone around you is eating, and you last like that toothless for years. Researchers are careful here. They lay out 2 possibilities. Maybe he found soft foods on his own, marrow, brains, tender plants, or maybe somebody else prepared his food for him. Neither one can be ruled out. But sit with that date for a second. 1.77 million years ago. To put that in perspective, everything you think of as human history, every city, every war, every word ever written, fits in the last few thousand years. This jaw is older than all of it by a factor of hundreds. It's older than our species, older than language as you'd know it, older than art, older than farming. And already somebody in that group was keeping alive a person who, by the brutal math of the wild, should have been long dead. So what do you do with that? The easy version goes, humans are just naturally kind. We've always looked after each other. Compassion is our superpower. It's a lovely conclusion, and it's exactly where I have to slow down because you deserve the honest version. Here's what the bones actually tell you, and what they don't. They tell you these people survived. That part is rock solid. You can measure healing. You can measure the way a toothless jaw reshapes itself. You can date the rock it's buried in. What the bones do not tell you is why. A skeleton records the outcome, not the motive. Because think about who that old injured person might be. Maybe he's the one who remembers where the water is in a drought. Maybe she's the only one who can read a trail nobody else can see. Keeping them alive might have been love. It might have been strategy. It might have been both at once, tangled together so tightly that even the people doing it couldn't have told you which was which. And there's a second catch. Surviving isn't the same as being nursed. Some researchers argue you could scrape through a severe injury in a group simply by not being driven off, by being tolerated, grabbing scraps, staying close, with nobody deliberately caring for you at all. The line between nobody left him and somebody looked after him is thinner than the internet version wants it to be. So what actually survives all of that doubt? This. Whatever the reason was, devotion, calculation, or something with no name yet, for at least 1.75 million years, your ancestors kept alive people who could not keep themselves alive. Long before anyone had a word for kindness, the behavior was already there, leaving its mark in bone. And that's what brings me to the question I promised you, the one I can't answer. If a healed bone looks exactly the same whether someone stayed out of love or because that person was useful, if you genuinely cannot tell the two apart in the skeleton, then here it is. Could you tell them apart in yourself? Think about the last person you took care of. Really took care of. Was it love? Or was it that they were useful to you, or that walking away would have cost you something you didn't want to lose? Be honest. Can you actually separate those? Because for most of us, the truthful answer is no. The bones can't tell the difference because there may not be a clean difference to tell. Not in them, not in you. That's not a comfortable place to end, but it's the true one. So tell me down in the comments. Think of the last person you looked after and be honest about why. Could you separate the love from the reason? I read every single one. And if this is the kind of question that keeps you up at night, that's the whole point of this channel. Subscribe and stick around because almost nothing is stranger or more worth understanding than the animal you happen to be.